So, couple of weeks back, I asked you a question as to how should your aquascape be, or what is an aquascape? And most of you came back with an answer saying that it should be like nature, it should look like nature, it is a piece of nature, we are taking from nature, and all of that. How many of you have even considered what happens in nature? So, what actually happens in nature? If your aquascape was actually a small piece of a larger river or a stream or something like that, or a lake, what would be happening there? What are the basic aspects that you need to understand from? Now, this statement, what happens in nature, is a very, very unique statement. Now, I learned this from Mr. Takashi Amano. Amazing gentleman, very, very insightful. We were on a trip to Mysore and we had stopped somewhere, I think near Sangam, and he wanted to eat this star fruit. It's a very unique thing that you get down south. They put masala and all in it. And we were discussing so many things, and I was asking him some very, very silly questions. And that's when he told me, ask yourself what happens in nature. Every time you have a doubt, ask yourself what happens in nature. Okay, I have algae issues, what happens in nature? I have, water flow issues, what happens in nature? My fish are dying, what happens in nature? Recently, I was in America and I was at Mr. Jeff Senske's gallery, Aquarium Design Group in Houston. And he was talking to us about his aquascapes and everything, and he shared a problem. He said, my shrimp keep dying very soon. I put them and in about a week, 10 days, they die. The fish are fine, everything is fine, plants are growing fine, but shrimp keep dying. So generally I, said the same thing to him. I said, what happens in nature? And then we went back and analyzed and realized that whenever they import driftwood into America, they treat it with copper. They fumigate it. And that residue, even after washing the wood and everything, is affecting the shrimp because they're very small creatures. Why I'm bringing this or connecting this is because in nature, if your smallest creations or the smallest nature's creations, shrimp, small worms, they are healthy, then the whole ecosystem is healthy. So again, it comes back to what happens in nature. So your aquascape should not just be based on your story. Your story should connect with the fact or, with the aspects of what happens in nature. So when you create an aquascape, is it going with the basic concepts of nature or the basic facts of nature? See, nature is perfect. There is no doubt about it. Okay, there is no question about it. I think the only foolish thing that nature would have done probably is to allow the human, evolution. Because we are the only species that can destroy nature. Okay, all other species go hand in hand. They work with nature. Let's understand some basic simple things. When you say what happens in nature, there are some basic 5 important things, okay, from an aquascape or an aquarium perspective. Sun rises and sun sets. So there is a fixed time frame of approximately when the sun will rise, because summer it will rise earlier, winter it will rise little later, all that is okay. Okay, but there is an approximate fixed time. Around 6:30 to 7 o'clock, this is going to happen. If you're in the east or in Calcutta or something like that, maybe around 5:30. But more or less the same schedule is followed throughout the year for you, and it will always be the same. So when the sun comes to its maximum peak, which is at about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, maximum amount of light is going to fall onto the stream. So how much is the photo period? Matlab, how much light is that stream going to get? Or how many hours of light is it going to get? That's the first understanding. Now, any stream that is growing plants and is healthy and does not have algae has to be flowing. What is the speed at which it will flow? If it's a slow trickle, will there be algae? If it's a fast, raging torrent, will there be plants? Will the plants be able to survive? What kind of fish will be there if it's a slow moving stream? What kind of fish will be there if it's a decently moving stream, if there is a good flow? And what kind of fish will survive if there is a fast flow? Plants absorb carbon dioxide with the help of light to produce glucose for themselves to grow and oxygen for other living beings. So how do plants get carbon dioxide? in nature, that is underwater, in nature, how do they get carbon dioxide? Where is that carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide is in the air, plants are in the water. How does that carbon dioxide get into the water column and how do they absorb it? Why do certain plants grow only in certain streams or certain rivers? And why do certain fish only grow in certain areas? How does nature maintain a perfect pH or a balance? When I say perfect, it's not 100%. There is always fluctuation, but more or less it is the same. If you take the Amazon River, you will see that the pH is, more or less the same, between 5.5 and 6.5. Certain areas it is low, certain areas it is normal. Similarly with rivers in India. How does a river or a stream maintain its nitrogen cycle? How does it maintain? Correct? How do plants get fertilizers in nature? Plants need fertilizers to grow. They need a good rich soil substrate. Okay, a good substrate. Ample amount of space for the roots to grow. And they also need additional fertilization for the general well-being in a sense. Fertilizers also help the plant to absorb more carbon dioxide, improve the production of glucose and let out more oxygen, which again helps the whole system. So how does all this happen? When you understand this, you start understanding how to arrange or adapt that understanding into your aquascape. So in your aquascape, how many hours of lighting do you need to have? If you're diffusing carbon dioxide, then how much? Are you diffusing carbon dioxide in the right manner? Are you using the right type of carbon dioxide so that the plants can easily absorb? Correct? What kind of fertilizer are you using? How are you maintaining the nitrogen cycle? What is the flow of the water in your aquarium? Is it right? It is too much, it is too less. What is apt? What is the kind of soil you are going to use so that you get a certain kind of growth? And of course, what fertilizers will you use? So, without an understanding of what happens in nature, to try and make an aquascape, it's not difficult, but it's not clear. It's always a very doubtful situation. You're always in doubt. You're not confident. Because when you understand the aspects of nature and how nature works, then this becomes very easy because it's very simple. Because there's one clear understanding. Nature is perfect. Plants know what they have to do. You don't have to teach them. Plants know how to grow. And coming back to that one point that I explained to you in last week's or the previous week's Zoom meeting, you as human beings or we as human beings are non-consequential. Even if you're not there, things will be fine. Plants will grow beautifully if they are given what they need. In a river, they're getting everything they need. But when you bring it to your house, you put it in a confined space, then you have to play the role of nature, where you will provide the right kind of requirement. You are only a provider. You will give the right kind of requirement. You will allow it enough light. You will give it the right kind of carbon dioxide. You will give it the right kind of soil. You will give it the right kind of fertilizer. In this next step of trying to make a beautiful aquascape, we need to keep asking ourselves what happens in nature. Simple thing. We go to a shop and pick up a piece of stone and come. How do you know if that stone is correct for our aquascape? What plants can we grow with that stone in our aquascape? Because the design requires the stone, but what plants will grow? How do you understand this? What is a proper driftwood? Can we just take a piece of wood from somewhere, cut it from a tree because it looks nice and dump it into the aquarium? Will it work? What is the meaning of a driftwood? How does a driftwood become a driftwood in nature? See, these are aspects you have to understand, and you can only way to understand is this from nature. Ask yourself, what happens in nature? Oh, I'm going to use this particular wood. It's going to let out tannins. Water is becoming brown. What happens in nature? My girlfriend ran away with some other fellow. What happens in nature? I mean, the girlfriend part, I don't know, but the aquascaping part is right. The understanding is very clear. You have to train your mind to realize that plants have their own intelligence that has been provided by nature. Fish are very, very intelligent. They are instinctive. Plants talk to each other. If one plant is struggling, all the plants will start struggling. And this happens. If the system is not, what is required, then the whole system starts struggling. Plants start struggling, fish start struggling. They're all interlinked. And you are the joint in that link. If you make a mistake, then everything falls apart. And not to make mistakes, simple understanding. What happens in nature? Last week we discussed observation. What do you observe? exactly this. Observe what happens in nature. Of course, last week's Zoom class, we've discussed this point because that's exactly what I asked you. What did you observe? You had different kinds of answers. Okay, but the most important thing to observe is what happens in nature. Because once you start understanding that, then the aquascape is time pass. All of you wonder, how is it that Takashi Amano or someone else or so many people, so many great aquascapers in the world, how do they manage to create such amazing things? How is it that their aquarium looks stunning? How is it that their fish look so healthy? How is it that their plants look so beautiful? They have understood only one thing. What happens in nature? That's the only thing they understand. That's the only thing they focus on. That's the only thing they give importance to. Everything else is achievable, easily achievable. Sticking one stick to another piece of stick is a small thing. But if you don't understand the whole aspect of nature and how that stick will look in nature, then when you stick it, you may be wrong. So everything goes back to what happens in nature. Keep asking yourself this. I always say, aquascaping is a lot of philosophy. Ask yourself this even in day-to-day life. Okay, it will answer so many questions for you. You will actually be able to see where I'm going wrong. See, because since aquascaping has come to my life, I have become a better person. Because these small things I'm able to observe and understand. So, you have a concept now. You have a simple drawing. You have an understanding of what you want to do. What you need to now figure out is, okay, this is my image, this is my theme, this is my story. If this was a piece of nature, what would be happening here? See, nature's rules are clear. So if you fit this into a river, what would be happening there? Where would the water be flowing from? If the water was flowing from left to right, then how would the pieces of wood fall? Interesting, no? Because there is a force in the water, there is a current in the water. The water is forcing the wood to move to a certain side. The force of water will smoothen the rocks. This is all natural. So if I have water flowing in this area, then where is my actual force? So where will my plants be? How will my plants react? And now because it's an aquarium, will we have a nice circular force because it's now able to move everything around and able to move the dirt or dust or anything and back into the filter. So if you want to achieve what happens in nature, then you need to have technology that will support you. You cannot make do with substandard technology. You cannot make do with substandard products. See, I'm not going to tell you to buy expensive stuff. I'm only saying, understand this right, use the right technology. How much you want to spend is up to you. It has nothing to do with me. I'm only going to teach you what is good in making an aquascape. What you want to use is up to you. Good, bad, ugly, all your decisions. So, back to the point, again, what happens in nature? Simple things. See, in nature, we have a summer and a winter. We have a day and a night. During the day, the temperature is higher. During the night, the temperature is lower. In our aquarium, if the temperature changes, our fish get white spots. Why they don't get it in nature? See, because nature's design is so beautiful that certain kind of fish will only stay in certain depth of water. In the day when the water warms up, they go to the bottom because it's cooler there, because the top surface warms up. In the night, when the top surface starts cooling off, then they're, somewhere in between, they're moving around. And if it becomes too cold, then they again go back because the bottom is warmer now. So, certain fish need a certain depth, and that understanding will come only if you observe from nature. Similar with plants. How many of you have seen that plants, your own tank, the bottom part or the bottom half will become black and the top half will become bright red and whatever. Simple thing. The bottom half is not getting ample amount of light. What happens in nature? Nature, because of the movement, the plants are moving. So there is amount of light. And if there is a plant which is not getting light, it will die out. Simple as that. So you need to trim and you keep or manage your plants in a certain height so that they get light fully. And all this observation happens from nature. So, as always, we will meet following Saturday for our Zoom class. the question or the whole conversation is going to be what happens in nature. It's a very, very important conversation before we start making our aquascape, because the next one will be about implementation. How do you set up your aquascape? Also, your Zoom link will be the same. There is no change. So don't worry about it. When there is a change, I will update you guys. There is no change in that. Additionally, if you need to revive your subscription and your membership charges or not, please do that. It's very important so that you continue with the class. There are going to be some changes with the membership format. We will update you on that. Okay, we are planning to add another fish only class. So that is something that we're planning to add. That will be a separate membership thing. So we'll figure that out. That's something that we're planning. But homework is observe and understand what happens in nature. If you're able to go out somewhere, maybe this weekend, and sit and watch every city, that we live in, not very far, 50-60 kilometers, there is some area which is very natural, very green. That's the beauty of India. Go there alone, switch off your phone, sit, just observe, listen to the sounds of nature, see what happens around you, see those small creatures, how everything is interlinked together. Are there any symbiotic relationships? Observe all of these things. Trust me, you will come back a better person. Okay, so what happens in nature? Okay, and we will meet very soon on Saturday. Okay, bye.